What would you do if the man who once swore to love you for life became the one who took the life growing inside you? Would you stay silent to protect his reputation, or would you stand up knowing it might destroy you? Amelia Ward once believed love could redeem any sin. Until one winter night, the sound of shattered glass and screams inside a mansion stole from her the most sacred thing of all, a child never given a chance to breathe. And Nathan Hale, Seattle's golden entrepreneur, a symbol of power and wealth, thought he could bury it all with money and influence. But he forgot one thing: Amelia was no longer alone. Across the city, a father she hadn't seen in 10 years, David Ward, a former officer broken by guilt, was coming back. Not for revenge, for justice. And when a father is denied the chance to protect his daughter, an entire city will witness what it means to take that chance back. So, tell me, between pain and silence, what would you choose, forgiveness or reckoning? A millionaire beat his pregnant wife until she lost the baby. Her father's revenge shocked the city. If you believe justice begins with truth, like, share, and subscribe, and join me on this journey through the story that made Seattle go silent. The wind off Puget Sound carried a salty tang as it slipped through the crystal-clear windows of the Hale estate. Inside, everything gleamed so perfectly you could see your reflection in every glass. From the outside, it looked like the picture of happiness: a successful husband, a gentle wife, a baby on the way. But only Amelia Ward knew that every night in this house was a negotiation between tears and fear. On the walls hung her unfinished paintings, colors blurred by tears, still smelling faintly of drying paint. She once told a friend that one's for the baby's room. Now she wasn't sure that room would ever be finished. Nathan Hale came in, the scent of whiskey blending with his expensive cologne. He tossed his keys onto the marble counter. The metallic clatter sliced through the silence. Painting again. Did you even see the news? My stock just dropped 2 points because of your stupid interview. Amelia's voice was barely a whisper. I only said you're talented. They asked about the project. I didn't say anything bad. But you opened your mouth, and you shouldn't have. Nathan stepped closer, his eyes cold as winter glass. She backed away, a hand instinctively protecting her swollen belly. You're making me look weak in front of this whole city. Please, don't. The slap came so fast she didn't even see it. Just the rush of air past her ear. Then the taste of blood. Amelia fell backward, her spine striking the table's edge, the world twisting out of focus. A broken sob escaped her, not just from her throat, but from deep within, where life was still forming. The pain hit hard, searing down her abdomen. She reached for her phone, but Nathan snatched it and hurled it against the floor. Don't make a bigger scene. Amelia. He turned and walked away, leaving her curled on the cold hardwood. The house fell silent except for the waves outside, crashing rhythmically against the rocky shore, slow, merciless. She felt the warmth of blood soaking through her nightgown. The taste of salt and iron lingered on her tongue. In that moment, Amelia thought of her father, the man she hadn't spoken to in 10 years, David Ward, a retired Navy officer. The last time they met, he had shouted, "You're destroying yourself for a man like him." She'd stormed out, determined to prove him wrong. Now, lying on the cold floor, she whispered, "Dad, I was wrong." Darkness slowly swallowed the room. She heard rain tapping against the glass roof, each drop piercing memory like a needle. The door burst open. A maid's voice trembled. Oh my God. Miss Amelia. The last thing she heard was the sound of an ambulance siren tangled with the wind and waves. When she woke, the sharp scent of antiseptic surrounded her. Everything was white. The hospital ceiling, the steady beeping of machines. She turned her head toward her belly, only to find emptiness. Her hand pressed against cold skin. A doctor spoke softly. "I'm sorry, Amelia. The baby didn't make it. She didn't cry, didn't scream, just silence like a pane of glass, cracked but never shattered." That afternoon, Nathan appeared in a dark suit, holding white flowers, a strained smile on his face. "You need to calm down. The press is asking questions. I told them it was an accident." Amelia turned toward the window, the Seattle sky heavy and gray. "Do you even realize who you killed?" Nathan froze, his expression tightening. "Don't say that. Amelia, you're tired. Rest. It'll handle everything." He closed the door behind him. Silence again. In the corner, a bouquet shed its petals one by one onto the sterile floor. Amelia sat up, cradling her stomach. She knew that from that moment on, a part of her had died, but within what remained, something else began to stir a quiet, burning belief that justice would come someday. She just didn't know that justice would wear the face of the man who once told her, "Never let anyone define your worth through fear." The first sound Amelia Ward heard after days of drifting in and out of consciousness was the rain tapping against the hospital window. It was steady, cold, mechanical, like the heartbeat of someone she no longer recognized. She lay still, eyes half open, staring at the blurry white ceiling glowing under fluorescent light. A young nurse passed by, adjusted the heart monitor, then offered a polite nod. "Good morning, Ms. Ward. How are you feeling today?" Amelia gave the faintest nod. Her throat was dry, burning. She didn't answer, just turned her gaze toward the small window. Outside, Seattle was buried in fog. In the distance, Puget Sound stretched gray and endless, where seagulls drifted aimlessly through the mist. A few minutes later, the door opened. A man in a tailored suit stepped in, the scent of his cologne cutting through the antiseptic air. "Nathan Hale. The doctor says you need rest," he began, voice smooth as lacquered wood. "I've handled the press. Everyone believes it was an accident." She said nothing, only listened to the sound of his footsteps circling her bed, his shoes tapping the marble floor like a ticking clock. "You're not going to talk to anyone, are you?" Amelia turned her head, her eyes hollow. "Do you think there's anything left to say?" Nathan gave a thin smile and stepped back. "Good. Keeping quiet is the smartest thing you can do for both of us." He left a bouquet of white flowers identical to the one before, then walked out. The door clicked shut, and the sound of the electronic lock made her chest tighten. 3 days later, she was finally allowed out of bed. Her legs trembled. Every step felt like walking into a void. The hallway outside was so white it hurt to look at. A few nurses passed, nodding politely, but their eyes avoided hers. She stopped at the end of the corridor, staring out the window from the 17th floor. Below, the city blurred beneath a veil of rain. Cars drifted through the streets like memories she could no longer reach. "Would you like a cup of tea?" The gentle voice startled her. A woman around 30 stood beside her, hair tied back neatly, her lab coat slightly wrinkled. The name tag read Claire Benson. "I brought real honey," Claire said with a kind smile. "The tea here is terrible." Amelia managed a small smile, the first since she'd woken up. She took the cup, inhaling the soft steam of chamomile. "You don't have to tell me anything," Claire said, eyes on the rain. "I just want you to know there are still people in this hospital who have a conscience." Amelia lowered her head, voice barely above a whisper. "They said I slipped, but I remember everything. I remember him yelling." His hands, Claire rested a steady, warm hand on her shoulder. "I know, and I believe you." They sat in silence. Only the rain spoke. That night, when Amelia returned to her room, she found a small envelope on the table. No sender. Inside, a handwritten note in neat, slanted letters. "If you want to leave this place, wait for the night shift tomorrow. He'll help you." Amelia looked around, heart racing. She knew who had left it, but fear flooded in. If Nathan ever found out, she'd have no chance left. She didn't sleep that night. The light from the hallway painted pale stripes across the wall, her reflection faint against the white surface. In the silence, the monitor beeped softly, each tone echoing like the heartbeat of someone who no longer existed, the child she had lost. Tears slipped down her cheeks. But this time, they weren't only for grief. They were because she finally understood she was still alive. And, if she was alive, she had to do something. She opened the nightstand drawer and took out an old postcard of a lighthouse on Puget Sound, from a trip she had once taken with her father. On the back, her trembling hand wrote, "I was wrong. Dad, I need you. If you still remember the daughter who left 10 years ago, please don't stay silent anymore." She hid the note inside her nightgown and waited for morning. When Claire came in the next day, her eyes darted briefly toward the security camera. "Do you trust me?" she whispered. Amelia nodded. "Yes, I do. Tonight, 11 o'clock, Claire said softly, "West emergency exit. There's a courier. I know he'll mail your letter. Don't write your real name, just the address." Amelia looked at the envelope, then nodded. After Claire left, Amelia stood before the mirror, staring at her reflection. Her face was pale, her eyes sunken, but something had changed. There was a steadiness there now, the look of someone who no longer feared. Outside, the hospital intercom announced the end of visiting hours. The city beyond the glass was still drowning in rain, but between the raindrops on the window, Amelia saw the faint reflection of a lighthouse small, blurred, yet standing tall against the storm. The night at St. Joseph Hospital was so quiet you could hear water dripping into a metal tray from the scrub room down the hall. The clock read 10:48 p.m. Most of Wing A was already dimmed. Amelia Ward sat up, carefully smoothing the bed sheet. Her heart pounded in her chest, every beat whispering the same words, "This is your last chance." She opened the drawer and took out the envelope she had prepared. Inside was a small note and an old photograph of her as a child, sitting on her father's shoulders, sunlight glinting off the bow of a ship. The photo was faded, edges worn soft with time. She added a small silver necklace, her mother's gift before she passed away. Pulling on her coat, she stepped into the hallway. The sound of rubber soles from a night nurse faded into the distance. The fluorescent lights flickered faintly overhead. When she reached the West emergency exit, Claire was already there, a medical supply case in hand. "Hez upstairs," Claire whispered. "2 guards, but they only make rounds every 30 minutes. Now's the window." She opened the case and handed Amelia a long gray coat and a surgical mask. "Put this on. Follow me and don't look back." Amelia nodded, her hands trembling. They moved through the narrow corridor, down the maintenance stairs. The iron door creaked open, and cold night air swept in, smelling of rain. Outside, a man stood beside a small delivery van. "This is Ben," Claire said quietly. "Night courier. Hell, make sure your letter gets where it needs to go." Ben took the envelope, glancing at Amelia. "Do you want to write a name for the recipient?" She shook her head. "No. Hell no, it's from me." Ben nodded, slipped the envelope into a waterproof pouch, and drove off, his engine fading into the sound of rain. Amelia stood in silence for a moment, then turned to Claire. "Thank you." I don't know how to Claire cut her off softly, eyes distant. "Just live." Sometimes, surviving is the loudest act of resistance. 6 days later, nearly 1,000 miles from Seattle, in the mountains of Montana. David Ward sat in his small log cabin. He was making coffee when he heard a delivery truck stop outside. The mailman left a small package on the porch. David opened it. A photograph slid onto the table. The paper still carried the faint scent of rain. As he read the trembling handwriting, his rough hands clenched tight enough for veins to stand out. "I was wrong. Dad, I need you." He sat motionless, staring out the window where snow had begun to fall. In the fireplace, flames crackled softly. Beside him, the coffee had gone cold. For 10 years, he had lived quietly, haircutting himself off from everything in Seattle. After his wife's death, and after Amelia left with Nathan, he had no reason to face the world again. But those few desperate words, simple and raw, split something open inside him. He rose and walked to the old steel locker. Inside hung his Navy uniform, its faded fabric still smelling faintly of salt. In the lower drawer sat a small box ID tags, old access cards to the naval docks, and a sun-faded family photo. He picked up the picture, his voice trembling. "My girl, I told you he wasn't worth it, but maybe I was the one who wasn't worth anything. I left you to fight alone." That night, David didn't sleep. He sat on the porch, listening to snow patter against the tin roof. In his mind, he saw his daughter's face as a child, her laughter echoing through memory. He remembered their last argument. "I love him. Dad. You don't understand. I understand men like him too well. He'll prove you wrong. You don't have to. Time will prove it." And time had proven it cruelly, without mercy. At dawn, he turned on his old laptop. The screen flickered to life, loading headlines about Nathan Hale Tech Entrepreneur Expands Philanthropic Fund, Seattle's Golden Couple. Set new record for charity gala, Hale Tech CEO celebrates another milestone. Not a single line about what Amelia's letter had implied. David stared at the screen, the blue light glinting off his weathered face. He drew in a slow breath of cigarette smoke and murmured, "All right then, if the world wants to stay blind, he'll be the one to open its eyes." 3 days later, his old military truck rolled out of Montana. The 800-mile drive west took nearly 20 hours. He didn't turn on the radio, just the hum of the engine and the hiss of wind through cracked seals. In his jacket pocket, he carried his late wife's necklace, the same one that used to make Amelia smile when she touched it as a child. That night, David stopped at the edge of Seattle. The city lights glowed orange against low clouds, shimmering like distant fire. He looked through the windshield and muttered, "Seattle, the place that took everything from me. Now it's where it'll take it back." He rented a small apartment near the docks and called an old friend Brooks, a former comrade now running private security. "Brooks, I need information on someone. Nathan Hale. the CEO of Hale Tech. I thought you were retired. I am from those who deserve peace. He doesn't. Brooks paused for a few seconds. Then, all right, give me 2 days. That night, in the dim, rented room, David opened the letter again. He read it over and over until the words blurred. Then he folded it carefully and slipped it into his breast pocket over his heart. Outside, the city glittered, beautiful, indifferent. Behind every light, David knew, were walls that muffled the sound of women crying in silence. He closed his eyes and heard the wind, remembering his wife's last words. If she ever loses her way, find her, no matter what. Now, he knew that day had come. Seattle, a bleak winter morning. The city moved as if nothing could ever touch it. The streets pulsed with noise, people rushing through the cold air, coffee cups in hand, phones pressed to ears. But among the crowd in the central square, one man walked alone, an old gray coat, eyes deep and still as glacial water. David Ward was back. He stopped in front of a glass tower that pierced the clouds. Polished letters gleamed across the front, Hale Technologies. Inside, young professionals in tailored suits hurried about, each carrying the proud look of someone working for Seattle's millionaire visionary, Nathan Hale. David stood there, staring at the giant poster on the building, Nathan grinning beside a team of engineers, all holding a sign that read, "Innovation saves the future." He murmured under his breath, "No, innovation doesn't save people. Justice does." That afternoon, David met Brooks in a small cafe by Lake Union. Brooks still had the same soldiers bearing, quiet, grounded, unflinching. "I found something," he said, sliding a slim folder across the table. 2 shell companies under his assistant's name. One handles medical sponsorship contracts. Guess which hospital's on the list? David's jaw tightened. St. Joseph. Brooks nodded. He funds it, which means he controls it. He pays to keep mouths shut. David leaned back, silent for a long moment. He understood that kind of power, the quiet sort that made witnesses forget. Brooks spoke again, voice low. "You sure you want to push this far? Dave, the guy's got security, lawyers, PREs wrapped in armor. You poke him, hell hit back." David's gaze drifted to the gray lake outside, where gulls floated in the mist. "Brooks, I lost brothers in combat. The only thing left to lose now is my conscience. And I'm not letting that die before he answers for what he's done." Across the city, Amelia Ward was finally cleared to leave the hospital. Nathan showed up in a sleek black Bentley, his expression unreadable. She sat in the back seat, silent as a shadow. "The doctor says you're recovering well," he said smoothly. "We're going home. I've redone your room." Her voice came rough, raw. "Don't call that place home." Nathan's eyes flicked up to the rearview mirror, his tone colder. "You might want to watch what you say. The press is watching. Don't give them the wrong impression." She turned away, lips pressed tight. In her mind, the image of the letter she'd sent her father drifted in and out, that small envelope carried out into the storm by a stranger. She didn't know if he'd ever received it. But for the first time, she felt lighter, as if some invisible chain had loosened. That night, David drove to the quiet waterfront district, to the mansion that had once been his daughter's home. He parked across the street, headlights off. Through the glass walls, warm light shimmered against the dark water. He saw her, a woman's silhouette, moving slowly through the house. Fragile. Familiar. Amelia. His grip tightened on the steering wheel, breath catching in his throat. 10 years. And now, there she was, just a fence away. But he didn't step forward. He knew that if he did now, everything could collapse. Instead, he took out his phone and called Brooks. "I need cameras around this property. 48 hours. If anything happens, I want to know before he does." Brooks replied, "Got it, Dave. He'll handle it." The next morning, Nathan left early for work. Amelia stood on the balcony, staring out at the bay. The air was sharp, salt cold. A faint sun broke through the clouds, brushing the sand below in pale gold. Then the chime of the front gate. She frowned. The guard accepted a small envelope, unmarked. She opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper. "Don't be afraid anymore. I'm here." Her hands trembled. Tears blurred her vision. She pressed the paper to her chest, lips moving soundlessly. Through the blur of rain on the window, she glimpsed a man in a gray coat stepping into an old truck, disappearing down the road. In that moment, the city noise faded away. All she could hear was her heartbeat. Her father was here. That evening, Brooks called David. "You'll want to see this," he said. He sent over a short video, Nathan walking into the basement of Hale Tech headquarters, opening a vault, handing a file to a man in a dark suit. They shook hands. "That's Vince Ortega," Brooks explained, "high-end PR fixer. He's cleaned up at least 3 abuse scandals for corporate elites. My guess, Amelia's case was one of them." David's eyes hardened. "Then I start with him." The next day, an anonymous email hit the inbox of the Seattle Herald. Subject line, "The man behind the mask of Hale Technologies." Attached was the photo of Nathan in the basement, with one sentence below, "There are things money can't hide forever." Days later, the expos dropped, sparking public suspicion. Hale Tech's stock dipped slightly, but Nathan struck back fast with a press conference. "Fake news," he declared to the cameras. "I believe in the law and in the truth." Amelia watched from the mansion, her chest tightening. She knew her father had made the first move, and that this was only the beginning. That night, she picked up a small phone hidden under her pillow and whispered 4 words. "Dad, I'm not afraid." There was a long pause on the other end, then a voice deep, steady, trembling with everything he couldn't say for 10 years. "My girl, I'm here." In that instant, across the darkness of Seattle, 2 people wept, one in a mansion by the bay, the other in a small apartment near the docks. Their tears traveled through cold electric wires, silent, unseen, but somehow they reached each other's hearts. Monday morning, Seattle woke up to the usual gridlock along I-5, an ocean of headlights crawling through the gray dawn. But inside the glass tower of Hale Technologies, the air was heavier than the winter sky outside. On the massive screen in the lobby, a breaking news ticker scrolled beneath a corporate promo reel, "Hale Technologies implicated in domestic violence cover-up." Young employees exchanged uneasy glances. Some whispered, others avoided eye contact. Nathan Hale walked in, calm on the surface, crisp white shirt, silver-gray tie, smile fixed like armor. He nodded at the cluster of reporters in the hallway. "Nothing to worry about," he said smoothly. "Every lie will be exposed for what it is." But as the elevator doors slid shut behind him, the smile cracked. He slammed his fist against the steel wall, the sound sharp, echoing through the empty shaft. "Where's Vince?" His secretary flinched. "Mr. Ortega is waiting on the 23rd floor, sir." The conference room on the 23rd floor blazed with light. Vince Ortega, a sharp-featured man in his 50s, salt and pepper hair, voice like a razor, was already seated. "The press is digging," Vince said without greeting. "Some of the medical staff at St. Joseph are being invited to talk." Nathan crossed his arms. Tone clipped. "You're paid to clean up. So clean it." Vince gave a thin smile. "I can clean up messes. Nathan, not the truth. If she or someone at that hospital starts talking, no one will dare." Vince studied him for a beat. "You sure about that?" Nathan didn't answer. His eyes flickered, just for a moment, the first crack of fear. That night, in a cramped apartment near the docks, David Ward spread a city map across his table. Red ink circles marked Hale Technologies, St. Joseph Hospital, the waterfront mansion, and Vince Ortega's office. Beside the map, his old laptop played the latest surveillance feed from Brooks. "Brooks," David asked, "who's the most trustworthy journalist left at the Seattle Herald?" "There's one Rachel Kim," Brooks said. "She's gone after corporate ethics scandals before. Got death threats for it. Didn't back down." David nodded slowly. "Good. She deserves to know the rest of the story." He reached for a small external hard drive, the one Brooks had cloned from Hale Tech's servers. Inside were medical donations routed through shell corporations in the Cayman Islands. One recipient, St. Joseph Hospital. Meanwhile, at the mansion by the bay, Amelia Ward was regaining strength. She spent hours in the reading room, the one place Nathan rarely entered. There, she wrote quietly in a leather-bound notebook every day. Every wound, every detail. Her handwriting was small and precise. She knew silence meant nothing unless it was used to remember. And one day, memory would have to speak. That afternoon, Claire arrived under the pretense of a medication drop-off, a paper bag in hand. "You holding up?" she asked. Amelia smiled faintly. "I'm still breathing." "That's enough." Claire hesitated, then leaned closer. "Rumor is some of us at the hospital are being questioned. Word is Nathan's paying to keep things buried." Amelia's eyes met hers, steady, almost calm. "Then it's time he learns money doesn't buy the truth." 2 days later, the second article hit. This time, it wasn't rumor. The Seattle Herald published excerpts from the leaked financial data alongside a still frame of Nathan handing an envelope to Vince in Hale Tech's basement. The city erupted. Twitter burned with "Beauty, Hale mask off," investors pulled back, and the Washington State Attorney General announced a preliminary inquiry inside the penthouse. Nathan hurled a glass against the wall. It shattered into glittering fragments. Who the hell leaked this? No one spoke. Finally, one trembling aide muttered, "Should we handle it quietly?" Nathan stared out at the skyline. Voice glacial, "No, not yet. First find out who sent that footage." That night, David and Brooks watched the news from the dockside apartment. Brooks grinned. Well, now he knows someone else is sitting at the chessboard. David's reply was low, grim. "We haven't won yet. Hell strike back. When he does, I need Amelia safe." Brooks glanced over. "You think she'll work with us?" David looked out the window, the harbor lights rippling across the glass, etching lines into his weathered face. "I believe in her blood. She's my daughter. When cornered, she doesn't run." And he was right. Amelia was ready. That night, she opened the small safe hidden behind her wardrobe and took out an old phone one Nathan had given her years ago, long forgotten. She inserted a new SIM card and dialed the number engraved in her memory, David Ward. "Dad," she whispered, "I think I found what he's afraid of most." "What is it?" "Amelia, a backup drive. It's in his office vault. I think it's got the data he uses to control investors and people in government." David's voice hardened. "Can you get it? Not alone, but if you help me, we can end this." Silence hung between them. Then David's voice came through, steady as stone. "All right, tomorrow we begin." The next morning, Nathan left at 7:15 as he always did. 30 minutes later, a food service van pulled up at the mansion gate. 2 men in delivery uniforms stepped out. No one knew that one was Brooks and the other David Ward. Inside, Amelia stood by the kitchen counter, pretending to make coffee. When the doorbell rang, she opened it and her eyes met her father's. No words were needed, just one look, and they both understood this was no longer a battle fought alone. Fog blanketed Seattle that night. Streetlights cast long golden streaks across the wet asphalt, their reflections stretching like ghosts. At the waterfront estate, pale light spilled from the second floor, shimmering over the black, glass-still water. In the kitchen, Amelia Ward cracked open the refrigerator door, letting its soft light spill over the tiles. She didn't eat, just took a sip of cold water and breathed in slow, steady rhythm. Her pulse matched her father's voice echoing in her head from that morning. "When the clock hits 11:15, kill the main breaker. Brooks will handle the cameras. After that, all you need to do is get the drive and get out." She checked the clock. 11:07 across town, in an old van parked behind a line of trees 3 blocks away. David Ward and Brooks watched the feed on a laptop. Brooks' fingers flew across the keyboard, green code reflecting in his glasses. Hale Home's internal cameras run on an isolated loop. He muttered, "I need 30 more seconds to cut the signal." David's reply was low, grave. "We get one shot. Brooks, if this goes wrong, he won't let my girl see another sunrise." 11:10. David pressed the radio. "Amelia, stand by." Her voice came through calm, clear, strong. "Dad, I've waited 10 years for this moment." Across town, Nathan Hale sat in his 23rd floor office, jaw tight, eyes dark. Vince Ortega walked in, phone in hand. "Bad news," Vince said flatly. "Someone's copying files from your system." Nathan's head snapped up, from where, not sure, but the signal's internal. "From your own network." Nathan froze, realization cutting through him like ice. The backup drive at home. He didn't wait another second. He grabbed his coat and bolted for the elevator. 11:13. Amelia climbed the stairs, every step deliberate. The hallway glowed dim gold under the nightlight. She pushed open Nathan's office door. Inside, the smell of leather and whiskey hung thick. In the center sat the walnut desk and on it, a small black safe. She entered the code Nathan's birthday. A soft click broke the silence. Inside lay papers, flash drives, and a thin silver hard drive engraved with the Hale Tech logo. Her hands trembled as she lifted it. Then outside, the growl of an engine. 11:15. "Dad, he's back," she whispered into the radio. David's voice hardened. "Get out, now!" The front door crashed open. Nathan's voice thundered through the house. "Amelia, you think you can outsmart me?" She bolted down the stairs, clutching the drive. Footsteps thundered behind her. From the side entrance, Brooks burst through the smoke-gray shadows, blocking Nathan's path. "It's over. Hale." Nathan yanked a gun from his coat, metal glinting in the dim light. Who the hell are you? The guy you shouldn't have crossed. At that same instant, David came in through the rear door, grabbed Amelia by the arm. Run. The gun fired. A deafening crack tore through the hall. The bullet splintered the wooden frame, grazing David's shoulder. He staggered but didn't let go. Brooks reacted fast, tossing a small canister to the floor. Smoke exploded, filling the room. "Go," he shouted. "I'll hold him." Outside, Amelia half carried her father down the slope toward the bay. Their breath came in ragged bursts. "Dad, you're bleeding, it's nothing. Just a graze. You got the drive." "Yes." "Good girl." From a distance, sirens wailed. Someone in the neighborhood had called it in. David turned to her, urgent, eyes fierce. "Listen to me. There's a small boat at the dock. Take it. Head for the lake. Brooks will meet you there. He'll follow. No, not without you. Amelia." His hands gripped her shoulders. His voice broke with authority and pain. "If I stay, it means I believe you can survive. Don't waste that faith." Tears welled, but she nodded. Then she turned and ran down the pier, bare feet slapping against the wet boards. Behind her, David disappeared into the fog and smoke. Inside the house, chaos reigned. Nathan lunged through the haze, tackling Brooks. The gun clattered away. "You son of a bitch spy." Brooks coughed blood, smirked through it. No, just a man who still knows right from wrong. Nathan roared, his hands closing around Brooks' throat. But before he could tighten his grip, flashing red and blue lights swept across the smoke-filled windows. Sirens. Police. He released Brooks and bolted for the back door only to find the dock empty. Amelia and David were gone. Out on the water, a small boat sliced through the mist. Amelia sat at the bow, clutching the silver drive to her chest. Far behind, the flashing lights painted the fog crimson and blue, sirens mingling with the rhythmic slap of waves. She looked toward the city's glow on the horizon and whispered, "Dad, he'll finish what you started." By morning, headlines screamed across every feed. Mystery break-in at tech millionaire Nathan Hale's mansion. Police confirmed signs of gunfire, smoke, and blood, but no suspects. At the dockside apartment, Brooks lay on a couch, shoulder bandaged. David stood by the window, arm wrapped, voice low and steady. "The drive's safe," he said. "Now it's time for this city to see who he really is." 3 days after the gunfire at the waterfront estate, Seattle was in uproar. Major headlines screamed across every paper and feed: domestic violence allegations, tech tycoon Nathan Hale silent amid scandal, Hale Technologies faces, accusations of money laundering and cover-ups, leaked security footage grainy, shaky. Anonymous showed the silhouette of a man shoving a woman inside a lavish home. The faces were blurred, but the internet didn't need clarity to judge. In a small apartment near the docks, David Ward sat by the window, the city glowing in chaos outside. "She's done better than I ever imagined," he murmured. Brooks, his arm still bandaged, smiled faintly. The video dropped at the perfect time. Social media's with her now. On the table, the live stream played on a laptop. Amelia Ward, pale but composed, eyes bright, with resolve-faced reporters from a small room bearing the logo of Women Rise. "Am not afraid anymore," she said evenly. "It's time to stop being silent. Am not speaking to seek revenge. Am speaking so other women will know silence never saves us." The studio went still. Online, hearts and messages poured in. "We hear you. We believe you." David's eyes glistened. 10 years of regret seemed to wash clean in that moment. But high above the city, on the 40th floor of Hale Technologies, Nathan Hale was far from silent. He stood before a massive screen showing Amelia's face, his lips twisted into a cruel smile. So, she wants a war fine. He turned to Vince Ortega, his PR consigliere, set up an exclusive interview. I'm telling my truth. Vince hesitated. Nathan, the market's crashing. One wrong word, and the stock will nosedive. Stocks can recover. Nathan said coldly. Reputation can't. I won't let a traitor take mine. That night, on national television, Nathan appeared, dark suit, perfectly tousled hair, and just enough fatigue to look human. There are rumors, he said softly. My wife, Amelia, is struggling with trauma. I love her, and I forgive her. He bowed his head, wearing grief like cologne, and it worked for some, online. Sympathy cracked through the tide. Maybe she just wants money. No one knows what happens in a marriage. David slammed his palm on the table. That bastard Brooks gripped his shoulder. Don't take the bait. The louder he talks, the deeper he digs. Let the truth speak for itself. The next morning, Amelia received a message from Rachel Kim at the Seattle Herald. Amelia, I've decrypted the full drive. There's a folder called Project Halo. Do you know what that is? She froze. She'd heard the name before whispered in Nathan's late-night calls with senators and investors. Project Halo, the fake charity arm used to launder money through federal health grants. She texted her father, Dad. This is his trump card. But if we go public, he'll destroy the evidence before they can act. David called immediately. Then we don't go public. We make him confess. How we make him think you want to trade to make peace. That afternoon, Amelia sent a message from her old dormant account. I have what you want. The hard drive. Meet me tonight, Pier 14. One last time. She powered off the phone, pulse racing. David protested. It's too dangerous. You don't need to do this. Amelia looked up, calm but unflinching. If you go, hell smell the trap. He still thinks him weak. David said nothing. He saw it in her eyes his daughter no longer needed saving. She was claiming herself back. Night fell. The air over the bay was sharp, cold, alive with wind. Pier 14 lay deserted except for the faint hum of waves beneath the planks. Amelia stood beneath a flickering light, holding the fake hard drive Brooks had built filled with scrambled data. 11:00 p.m., a black sedan rolled up. Nathan stepped out, long coat, dark eyes sunk deep. Is this really how you want to end it? He asked, voice soft as silk. Amelia didn't flinch. It's how you chose to end it. He chuckled. You'll never beat me, Amelia. He moved closer, one hand hidden in his coat. And then, the night erupted in light. Helicopter floodlights, sirens. The amplified voice of law enforcement, Nathan Hale, you are under arrest for assault, money laundering, and obstruction of a federal investigation. Nathan spun, stunned. From across the pier, FBI agents advanced, weapons drawn. Amelia stepped back, voice trembling but steady. We've been tracking you since last night, and thank you for confirming everything yourself. She lifted her phone. The screen blinked, recording live transmission. Every word had been sent straight to the agents on the bridge. Nathan lunged, shouting, You set me up. Amelia met his eyes, voice calm as water. No, Nathan, you buried yourself. He was slammed to the ground, handcuffed, his shouts echoing uselessly across the bay. Morning. Rain fell soft over Seattle. Every channel, every feed, Nathan Hale arrested, the dark empire of Hale Tech exposed. Reporter Rachel Kim stood outside police headquarters, speaking into the camera. Sources confirmed the case was cracked through the cooperation of survivor Amelia Ward and former naval officer David Ward. In the small apartment near the docks, the TV flickered. David exhaled deeply, head bowed into his hand. "It's over." Amelia Brooks smiled faintly. "Not over. Dave, we've only won the first chapter of the truth." Across town, in the modest office of Women Rise, Amelia sat alone by the window, watching the rain drift over the bay. A soft gray veil hung over the water. She thought of the child she never got to hold, her voice barely a whisper. "We did it, my love." I spoke for both of us. Outside, thunder rolled across the sound, but to Amelia, it didn't sound like a storm anymore. It sounded like applause. 2 months later, Seattle eased into an early spring. The air was damp and cool, the sky impossibly blue after months of gray. The Duwamish River shimmered in the sunlight as if the city had never known such a dark night. Inside the King County Jail, Nathan Hale sat behind bars. The tailored suits were gone, replaced by an orange jumpsuit. His nails were still neatly trimmed, but his eyes were hollow. Outside, reporters shouted through the gates. The trial of Nathan Hale and his associates in the Project Halo scandal begins today, with key witness Amelia Ward expected to testify. Nathan lifted his head, lips curling into a ghost of a smile. "She may have won a battle," he muttered, "but she hasn't beaten me." The Seattle courthouse was overflowing citizens, journalists, and women's rights advocates packed the hallways. Amelia entered quietly, dressed in a simple pale blue dress, her hair tied back. Beside her walked David Ward, cane in hand, his shoulders still stiff from the wound. "You don't have to prove anything to the world anymore, Amelia," he said softly. "You've already done enough." She smiled. "No, Dad, I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing it for me." Across the aisle, Nathan sat in cuffs. Their eyes met, not with fear, not with hatred, only a stillness where the past met the present. The prosecutor read the charges: domestic violence, obstruction of federal investigation, money laundering, manipulation of medical data. Evidence rolled across the screen: emails, transfers, surveillance, and the files of Project Halo. When it was her turn, Amelia rose. Her voice was calm, even, and utterly steady. "I'm not here to retell my pain. I'm here to prove that silence is never the answer. They can take everything from you, your name, your freedom, even your child, but they can't take the truth." The courtroom fell silent. Some people wept. David watched, eyes rimmed red but shining with pride. Nathan's attorney tried to twist her words, firing questions meant to corner, but she answered each one with the precision of a scalpel. "No, I didn't fall. I was hit. No, I didn't lie. I survived. And yes, I forgave him. But forgiveness does not mean forgetting." Nathan lowered his head. His shoulders trembled. No one could tell if it was anger or, for the first time, shame. By afternoon, the verdict was read aloud. Defendant Nathan Hale is sentenced to 22 years in federal prison for assault, money laundering, and obstruction of justice. Co-conspirators, including Vince Ortega, will serve 8 to 15 years. The hallway erupted with noise-flashing cameras, shouted questions, the hum of justice catching its breath. Amelia sat still, eyes closed, taking in the silence between heartbeats. When she opened them, sunlight poured through the high windows, catching the trail of tears glistening down her face. David rested a hand on her shoulder. "It's over, sweetheart." She turned, smiled gently. "No, Dad, it's just beginning." Weeks later, Women Rise hosted a small gathering by the bay. Amelia spoke before hundreds. Many were survivors like her. At the back, David and Brooks watched quietly, pride softening their faces. "I once thought justice meant punishment," Amelia said. "But I've learned justice truly begins when we tell our stories so others don't have to suffer in silence. When we choose to stand, not bow." Applause thundered through the crowd. Tears glimmered on countless faces. A reporter called out, "Do you hate him, Amelia?" She smiled, gaze drifting toward the horizon. "No, I just regret how long I stayed quiet." That evening, Amelia returned to the empty waterfront house. Everything was sealed, dusted with silence. She opened the window, letting the ocean breeze drift through. On the floor lay a fallen picture frame, their wedding photo, both smiling with a brightness that now felt counterfeit. She picked it up, wiped the dust away, and set it back upright. "The past is the past," she whispered. "It doesn't own me anymore." She stepped out to the balcony. The Puget Sound stretched wide and silver beneath a fading sky. Far away, a lighthouse blinked rhythmically, steady, unwavering. She remembered her father's voice from childhood, teaching her how to find direction by the light of the bay. Now, she thought, she had found her own. Late that night, David knocked on the door. "You came back here. I just wanted to see the ocean one last time before I leave Seattle." "Where will you go, New York?" "They've asked me to consult on a women's safety initiative. I think it's time to move forward." David nodded, eyes misting. "He'll miss you, kiddo." She smiled, squeezing his hand. "He'll miss you too. But this time, Dad, I'm not running away. I'm living." They embraced long, wordless, unbreakable. The next morning, dawn broke over Seattle-Tacoma Airport. Amelia sat by the plane window as light poured across the clouds. From her bag, she pulled out a small postcard, a photo of the lighthouse she had once sent her father. On the back, he had written, "The light will always wait for you, no matter how far you go." She smiled through the tears, the weight finally gone. Outside, the sky stretched open blue, boundless, and free of every shadow. There are wounds that never fade, but we can choose how to rise from them. The story of Amelia Ward isn't only about reclaiming justice. It's a reminder to all of us never let silence become a habit. Silence may protect reputation, but it can also kill faith. It may shield us from pain for a moment, but it starves the soul forever. Amelia lost what was most precious yet. She never lost her faith in humanity. David Ward, the father who thought he'd lost everything, found redemption in the courage to stand for what's right. And we, the ones who listened, have perhaps faced the same crossroads when truth terrifies us, but also frees us from the dark. Life will never be perfectly fair, but courage and compassion will always be the light at the end of the road. If you've ever fallen, if you've ever hurt, believe this dawn still waits, as long as you dare to take one more step. Thank you for walking with us through this story. If you believe that justice and love are real, like, share, and subscribe so together we can keep spreading stories that reach the heart. Because sometimes one story is all it takes to heal the world.